Well, hello.
Morning, Shannon.
Good morning. And for anyone watching, welcome to Conversations with Mom, growing up undiagnosed ADHD. And so I'm Shannon Rose Scott, and this is my mom. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Laura, proud to be Shannon's mom.
And thank you so much for doing this with me, Mom, on camera.
You're welcome. We'll see how I look.
Oh. So one thing I thought it would be kind of fun to just start with is even just how, if you can remember like 8, 9 months ago when I first called you from Costa Rica, and told you about thinking that I was ADHD, just what your first thoughts were.
My first thoughts were, "Oh no, you're not. You're not. You don't fit those criteria." But then I went online and I looked at a few things and I thought, "Oh, wait a minute. That's Shannon. That's Shannon totally. That's totally Shannon." But my first thought was, I guess I had the misconception of what ADHD was, which has been so much all your life. And that's why you weren't diagnosed properly. Yeah.
Yeah. Which were like the things that made you think, well, no, it couldn't be.
That you gave me good eye contact, usually. That you, in my mind, didn't fidget the way, some autistic people do. And I knew that like you did really well in school, and that is a sign of autism. Like a lot of autistic people do have a really strong area of expertise. But yeah, I just didn't know all the symptoms of ADHD. And once I started listening to the other symptoms, I thought, oh yeah, that does fit Shannon. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was me too. Because, like, yeah, at first when everybody was telling, like, not everybody, but when these specific people, some friends, some well, at the time boyfriends, were telling me that they thought I was ADHD, or people didn't say autism either. They were more saying like somewhere on the spectrum, and I was just like, well, no, I definitely didn't think I was ADHD.
Yeah.
Although now I see it, but yeah, at the time I definitely didn't think that. And then with the autism, definitely didn't think it either,
Yeah.
especially because of the eye thing, and also not liking the typical subjects of like math or science or being like really smart in those areas.
Right. Yeah.
Which, isn't me.
And the spectrum is so broad that unfortunately too many of us think of just a tiny part of that spectrum and we don't see the whole scale of it. And I think that's why I just thought, oh, no, you're not on the spectrum. Yeah.
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 Well, I know the biggest like indicator that I am is the whole bumping thing, or what we
Yeah.
call bumping, which I guess is actually a stim, a type of stim, and a type of what do they call it? Like the because it also comes with verbalizing.
Okay.
Well, future self will insert a little quick thing here, and
Okay.
then but yeah, so this what we call in our family bumping.
Yeah.
Can you
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about how that
I
first
talk
started?
about that. I was sitting in the living room one day and I had just put you to bed. It was in the afternoon and you were just going to have your afternoon nap. You were probably 3 or 4 months old, maybe, because you had the strength to be able to lift your head. But I heard this bumping sound and I thought, what the heck is going on upstairs? So I went up and I checked in your room and there you were lying on your tummy, just banging your head up and down on the mattress. And I thought, well, that's weird. But I didn't think too much about it until you got a wee bit older and you could get up on your hands and knees. And then you'd rock back and forth and bang your head on the bars of the crib. Or if you were down here, you'd bang your head on the wall back and forth on your knees. So I made a big bumper pad, and it went all the way from the mattress to the top of the crib, and because you were getting a bump on the top of your head. And I mentioned it to the doctor, and I honestly don't remember what exactly he said. But other people, as you got a wee bit older and would sit on a chair and just bump back and forth, they said, "Oh, that's a sign of good rhythm, and she's going to be a musician." Or somebody else said to me, "3 of my 6 kids did exactly that." And they all just figured it was just a normal thing that babies did.
But like, that's so weird though, because it's not a normal thing that babies do. And it is weird that people weren't like, were you not like, I feel like I would have been like, what's wrong with my kid? Like, are they like possessed by a demon or something?
Oh,
Like, did
no,
you
I would never have thought that.
know you were never scared of like,
No, no, I figured it was a weird thing you like to do. Lots of kids will, have a blanket and suck on the blanket, or some of our little neighbors would put their fingers in their mouth and then try and grab a hold of their mom or something, and I just figured it was a comfort thing you did, just you like to rock. And I really figured it was a rhythm thing because, we have a musical family, and I just figured, yeah, she's just in the rhythm of it. And
well, I guess it was a comfort thing because I guess that is what stims are, is a comfort.
yeah, yeah.
And so when did like the vocalizing start? Do you remember that? Because like I
Oh,
used to sing and do it. Or
yeah.
was
When you first started, you would just go, just, like, because you didn't have words.
yeah.
And I honestly don't remember when you actually started singing along with it. It was more just kind of humming or verbalizing that way without the words. I don't honestly remember when the words started.
Oh, I'm not sure I ever used words. Like by singing I meant like humming and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You were probably 1.5, maybe.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Huh. And I remember like I'm surprised that I wasn't made more fun of because like I do know I did it on the bus going to school.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I would sit in the bus and like
yeah.
bump and sing and like sometimes have headphones and like it because like I was teased at school for other things, but not for that.
Not
Like
for
I
that. Isn't that funny that you weren't? Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's kind of nice that I wasn't, but it is also kind of strange. But I do remember being embarrassed about it still. I don't maybe I just don't remember people making fun of it, but I remember just being aware that it was kind of like something um that like I shouldn't I I guess I was embarrassed as I started getting older. Maybe I wasn't embarrassed at first, but because I would hear, I guess you and Dad like say that you would think that I was, gonna grow. You thought I was gonna grow out of it by the time I got to school,
yeah,
and then and then oh well, maybe she'll grow out of it by high school, and so and not that you guys were ever like putting me down for it, but maybe that like, you know,
yeah, yeah,
um, but and I think just also it was something like I had to start explaining to
yeah.
people
I know.
like
Sometimes when we'd be driving in the van, we had a van at the time, and when we'd be driving in the van with our family, one of your siblings would say, "Shannon, stop bumping," because
uh,
we could feel it in the van. Like it was jerky. Yeah, and maybe
really
that.
you could feel it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We could feel you bumping. Yep. Yeah,
I don't remember them telling me that. That's funny. I remember my sister saying like just that she kind of liked the feeling of it when we used to share like a bed when we were really
oh
young.
yeah, yeah. It would put her to sleep too.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
but I'm sure they did say that. That's just good that I don't really remember that. But
yeah. And I only remember that on the odd occasion because they just kind of thought, well, this little kid in our family is liking to bump. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I guess there was like little jokes, but like they weren't like mean jokes. Like I remember like my brother referencing it in a speech once.
Yeah,
Um that
yeah,
in a joke, but like again, it wasn't a mean joke, but probably just that like those things probably though did affect, just like knowing, yeah, this is kind of a weird thing that like I should be growing out of, but I'm not yet.
yeah,
Um, and then definitely at camp, when I was at an overnight camp, close to home, that the counselor, I mean, I guess we didn't think to tell them that I do this thing. And I was actually doing it in my sleep because I would do it to get to sleep, but I would also sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, like doing it. So sometimes I would do it in my sleep. And that was what was happening at camp. And I suddenly was shaken awake in the middle of the night and to this person saying, "Don't do that to yourself. Why are you hurting yourself? Stop doing this. Stop it."
yep,
And I didn't know I mean, I was just woken up. I was so confused what was happening. And then I was really embarrassed and I don't think I even talked to them the next day about it. Um,
yeah,
and that maybe was more like the moment than anything else that really started making me feel like okay, I have to stop doing this now.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I do remember there was many times like where I'd want to do it to go to sleep, but I'd feel like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this anymore, and so I'd really try not to. And man, I always had a lot of sleep issues.
Yes, you did. You'd come down numerous times after you went to bed and you just couldn't sleep and you couldn't get to sleep. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so whether that was because I was trying not to bump anymore or whether it was others, it could be it was probably a bunch of things that
probably.
contributed.
Yeah,
But that is one of like the um bad things about not being diagnosed and not understanding
why?
what it is. Because if we had known when I was young, then like it maybe wouldn't have been something that I ever would have tried to stop doing. It would have been just like, oh no, this is what I do, and
Totally, totally. Yeah, yeah. Because
oh,
I'm
but
sure people that have a child that has been diagnosed autistic, they probably don't limit them from what they do. Like if they twirl their hands, they don't say, "Stop twirling your hands," you know? Yeah.
I hope not. I think maybe in the past, like people have tried that approach to try to control and
Oh,
change, but now that it's becoming more aware, there's more awareness around what this is, and that it's not about changing us, but actually about honoring our needs. But I'm sure there were lots of people that were diagnosed and were still trying to
make them
trying that they were trying
do.
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Um, but before we move on from the bumping thing, I know then as I did get older and like in my late teens, early 20s, when I was starting to be with like partners, that was definitely like a weird, a weird thing to have to like tell them that, hey, by the way, sometimes in my sleep, I'm gonna do this weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I'm sure it was. Yeah. Good job you told them though. But yeah, yeah, without the understanding that it was an autistic trait, it would be really hard to explain to people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Well, what else did I want to ask you about? What else did you have? You had some talking
Well,
points.
yeah. Um, you didn't like, even as a tiny baby, you didn't like when strangers would touch you. I was holding you one time at the arena, and a friend of mine came up and kind of grabbed your arm and said, "Hi, how are you?" And you went, "Ugh." And she said, "Oh, okay, I won't touch you then." Like, and I did mention that to the doctor, and he just laughed that off too. He said, "Oh well," he said, "little kids know when someone is being honest and sincere." She probably wasn't being very sincere, but she was. But you just didn't want to be touched. Yeah.
That's kind of a weird response from the doctor. Um, but sometimes babies do play strange, though, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Now, you never played strange, but you
Oh.
didn't want to be hugged or touched by people that you didn't really know. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. And that wasn't common in my siblings?
No, I don't remember any of them being like that. No.
Yeah. Hmm.
We did have a relative that would, uh, she'd come up to you and she'd go, "Oh, hello, hello." Well, no, no, none of you three liked that, but that
Yeah.
was because that was pinching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just touching, you would just move away from them. You didn't want that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's definitely been something all my life that whenever I've been, especially when I'm upset, but even if not, yeah, I don't like people just forcing themselves on you, like
Yeah.
like hugging and stuff. And so many people have criticized me for that and told me that I'm not like warm-hearted enough or not my heart chakra's blocked or different things, that like in the yoga world. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, actually I'm autistic.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that that was even like from baby, like from
Yes.
a,
Even from a baby. Yeah. Yeah.
mm,
Now you like to cuddle with Dad and I,
yeah.
but it was strangers that you, or just people that were acquaintances that you knew, but you just didn't want to be touched by them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I'm like that now too. Like sometimes I like to be like sometimes I'm very touchy with my friends and cuddly and stuff, but other times I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the other hard thing with, I guess, with autism, with ADHD, with ADHD is that like they say that it's not always consistent because it
Yes.
depends on our capacity in that moment and whether we're like overwhelmed. And so like, but that's been something hard for me to understand, probably hard for you to understand, and anyone in my life to understand because it's like, well, she could do this yesterday or she could act like this yesterday. Why is she like this now?
Yeah. Totally. Yep. Yeah. Hmm. There's so many different ways that people on the spectrum respond, and so many different ways that that particular person responds in different situations too. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing too that I noticed when you were little, like this is when you were talking and probably going to school, but still very young, you didn't always interpret the expressions of people the way they intended. Like you would see somebody give you a look or something and just assume it was a certain look they were giving you when really it wasn't. And that even happened with me. I remember you saying to me one time when you were wee little, "Don't look at me like that." And I thought, what am I looking at? Like I don't know what I'm looking at that's different, you know? Yeah. It was that interpretation of what people were really meaning when they would give you a look or say, even I guess expressions say something too, but or just the looks. Yeah.
That I still struggle with because um, I really believe what I think.
Well, of course it will. Yeah.
But part of me thinks like honestly, part of me thinks that I'm seeing things that people just don't realize they're feeling and I think they're trying to hide their feeling, but I'm able to see it.
Well, I like that confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, but they say that's a sign and a common thing. But yeah, like right now, I guess I'm still trying to figure that one out because like I definitely often feel like people are mad at me.
Yeah. And they're not. Probably not. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And along with that, goes the high sensitivity. Like you are so sensitive to what people say to you or what you think their looks are meaning. You're so sensitive to that. Yeah. Remember,
Yeah.
kids one time said to you, and I think it was a compliment from them. Um, you remembered something from ages ago or something like that. And one of the kids said, "Oh, well, elephants never forget." And that really hurt you. You just,
That was Dad who said that.
oh, was that Dad?
Yeah. And then he kept saying it. He kept joking, like making a joke about it. He didn't understand that it was really upsetting me. And I felt like he should have seen how upsetting it was because he would bring it up over and over again and like elephants never forget. Yeah. And I remember that because at the time I thought he was like telling me I was like fat like an elephant.
Yeah. And that certainly was. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the time period that you grew up, neither Dad nor I understood autism at all. And yeah.
In the time I grew up too, and even like in my college years, because okay, so you and Dad both teachers,
Yeah.
working with these kids in schools. I studied child and youth work. Like I learned about kids with autism and ADHD, and I still wasn't really putting two and two together. Um, like
Because
I would have.
it was such a narrow part of the spectrum that we were taught about. And not all kids fit that narrow spot. Yeah.
And I'd received so many other diagnoses. Like we'd already tried to check me out, and like they'd never ever even assessed me for that. I don't think.
No, no.
But
And
like
then,
I had some.
oh, yeah. And then the drugs they put you on just didn't work. Well, of course they wouldn't work because that wasn't the right diagnosis. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like a whole other conversation. Well,
Yes.
maybe two today or not, um, but that's like another one of the biggest. Or what was I wanting to go with that? Um, but yeah, just that we all like, we like you and Dad especially had like worked with like a lot of kids with autism and ADHD, and it's just so funny we didn't like see all
Didn't
of that.
recognize it. Yeah.
But I know sometimes I didn't want that diagnosis because of what I had in my mind about people with autism too. But because I do remember many times when I was doing child and youth work and seeing the autistic kids who would be having their meltdowns and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, oh, this is kind of like what I do. Um, and being like feeling kind of sick to my stomach, like recognizing that, but then still being like, but I'm not like that. Like but like, because these kids, didn't make eye contact and they were like the different level of autism. And
Yeah.
so I was still like, no, that's not me. And then sometimes watching different TV shows with you guys, like the Good Doctor about that autistic doctor, and different shows where again they'd be showing these meltdowns, and I'd be like, that's what I do.
Yeah. So you could relate to it, but you didn't think you should be relating to it in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. And because we had been told years ago that those meltdowns I was having were panic attacks.
Yep.
That's what we were first told. And yet I remember very clearly then, like when they were trying to treat me for panic attacks with again these meds that weren't working, were actually making me more
Mm-hmm.
panicky. Um, but when I remember through that process, them like describing to me what a panic attack should feel like and about you feeling like you're dying. And I'm like, that's definitely not like, I don't think I'm dying at that moment. I just can't take it.
Yeah.
And, and like that was hard to get across. And so then they thought I had an anger rage
Yes.
disorder.
Yep.
And so then they put me in anger therapy and like trying to, and then we thought that these meltdowns, the autistic meltdown was like a rage thing, but that wasn't it either. And it was, it was just, and then finally understand, like, but now it's like, oh, that is exactly what those things were. It was like, it's overwhelm. It's being so overwhelmed that you just can't, like, I don't know how else to describe it. I know one of the therapists I talked to said it's like the only, um, like there's no more words, there's no more actions, and it's just like the pain is just like coming out, and it's just,
Yep. And I know one of the things you used to do when you'd have those episodes, you would take yourself off. You would go away somewhere, and not knowing at that time that that was something you should do, like, because I've heard doctors say online, if you're feeling overwhelmed, get yourself out of that situation and go to a quiet spot. And so you were doing that instinctively, but not knowing why. And we were all thinking, oh, she's running away again, you know?
yeah, so many people criticize me for doing that. So many
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
doctors, therapists, regular people, friends, boyfriends, like, yeah, everyone would always be like, no, we have to deal with it in the moment. And I'd be trying to say, but if we do that, I'm going to start screaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I can't. And so many people though would, yeah, exactly what you said, that I'm running away, that I'm not facing it, that I'm,
Yep.
and that because sometimes it takes me not just hours, sometimes it takes me days to process and be able to come back and talk about the thing. And a lot of people criticize me for that too. And yet that's very typical with autism, I've learned now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There are just so many things that we experienced with you, Shannon, that were autistic related, and we had no idea, and we weren't
Yeah.
treating them properly,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the big spectrum of autism was not really recognized until the early 80s in medical books, medical journals. And before then, it was just the one strand, the one part of that spectrum that was labeled autistic, and they weren't looking at everything. And so we just, yeah, no, she's not. You can give us eye contact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that we ever even questioned autism with your bumping or you're not wanting to be touched. Like we didn't even question it. We just figured it was your nature.
I do remember though, it was kind of a mysterious thing though. Like I remember that one time in that board game we were playing with my siblings, and how it actually listed the weird, I forget what they called it. They didn't call it bumping, but we were like, that's like what Shannon does. But they listed it as being a trauma thing in this board game. Because it was an old board game.
Yeah.
And I know there were so many like times where doctors were constantly trying to find out where was the trauma that happened to you, and like all these different like past life regressions I would do, or different, all these different things I was trying to do to find that thing, but there was never a thing. Like I had such, and like I even knew that as a wee little girl, like the first time we went to the doctor, like I knew I had no reason to be as sad and upset as I was, because I had such a good family, and such a good life. And like it was like I knew that I shouldn't be this sad. But I just felt so different from everybody, and I just didn't know why everything was so much harder for me than everyone else. And
Yeah. Yeah.
um I don't know where I was going with that. That trail of thought.
I remember my dad, your grandpa, saying to me when you were, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5, he said, she's different than the other two, isn't she? And I just said, yeah. And I didn't question. I didn't ask him, what do you mean? Why do you think she's different? I wish he was alive and I could have asked him now. Yeah.
I know, right? I remember you telling me that other time. You said it was something to do with I was with an animal or something.
Yeah. You'd been taking care of a little baby goat that had been born and needed some nursing attention, and you were criticizing the other two for not being gentle enough with the goat, and yeah, and my dad said, "Oh, she's different than the other two."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Did you have any other things right now that you had on your list?
That's pretty much what I covered on my list, but I'm sure there's going to be more things we want to talk about
Yeah.
as we
Yeah.
get more familiar with what what people deal with
Yeah.
when they're on the spectrum, and how it's been misinterpreted and all that. Yeah.
And sometime like it'll probably be kind of hard to talk about maybe, but I wouldn't mind like yeah, just like letting you share like what, like what was hard about having to be you know,
Having to be
like my mom.
oh, oh sure. I'll give that some thought. Um the probably the hardest thing was that nobody really understood what you were going through, and they just thought it was just you being a diva, or you being a demanding, and yeah, if you had had the diagnosis earlier, accommodations would have been made, even in just people's thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about that another time. Yeah.
Mhm. That what you're saying about people's thinking. And at the same time, though, this could still happen with being with having this label now. It's still having people treat it differently, which I am a little worried about. Because
Yeah.
I definitely experienced that when I thought I was bipolar and was openly sharing that with people. Because I had received that diagnosis, misdiagnosis. But like, because people definitely treated me poorly when they thought I was bipolar. They didn't believe me. Any emotional thing I had, all of this just because you're bipolar. It was suddenly like everybody else suddenly had no um need to be held accountable to their own actions, because it was just like, oh well, if she's upset about that, it's just because she's bipolar.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And I'm a little worried that that could happen with this too, but
Because there is still too much thought that autism is just this kind of person, not the whole spectrum.
yeah.
And then ADHD just adds another whole layer too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that'll also be why we never necessarily saw a lot of the things either, because of the ADHD thing, because
Yep.
they cancel each other out.
Yeah.
And that's also typical for a lot of people that are ADHD. They were even more likely to go undiagnosed because yeah, if you can be social, then you mustn't be autistic, and then and then if you can focus, then you mustn't be ADHD. So
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that's probably
Good
good for
first
now,
start.
eh?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll jot down other things that I want to talk about, and we'll have another session for sure.
Yeah, and maybe we'll ask our people watching here right now if there's what would you like to know about
Yeah.
about from people, from us, from my mom, from
Yep.
me. What would you like to ask us? What would you like to know? If you could ask us anything about our experiences, what would you ask?
Perfect. Yes.
Well, thanks so much, Mom. I so appreciate you coming on camera and being vulnerable too, and sharing our
Yep.
story.
Yep. It's a good thing to be able to discuss. It really is. Yeah.
All right. Until next time. Talk
Yes.
to
Till
you.
next time.